Today, I'm going to talk to you. Specifically, I'd like to talk to you, and specifically, I'd like to speak to the youth. So raise your hands for me, please, if you are of the ages of, let's say, 10 to 20. Okay. Nice one, Mr. Whiteblood. All right, good. This message is for you. I want to ask you all a question. How many of you, or how many of your parents, use cute or interesting phrases or metaphors to try and teach you valuable lessons? I know mine did. Growing up, I can't tell you how many times I heard phrases such as, avoid the appearance of evil. My mom said that a lot. One bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. My dad still says that a lot. Look after your pennies, and your dollars will look after themselves. Now, I'm sure if we thought about it, we could come up with even more of these sayings. Some of them you've probably heard a lot, some of them you've probably said a lot. And while some of them may be a little old and maybe a little bit cheesy, there's generally a lot of truth to them. And they tend to carry with them some pretty profound lessons. Now, looking back at my own life, there is one phrase that I think about a lot. And it's one phrase that I think I heard more than any other. And it was the phrase, one apple can spoil the whole barrel. I can hear my parents saying this right now. They drummed this into my head over and over. And of course, they would use it as a teaching tool to impart to me the importance of selecting my friends. And as a warning that selecting the wrong friends or hanging out with the wrong people can be pretty harmful. Looking back, I can't help but wonder how many other parents use the same phrase on their kids, warning them of me. There really is a lot of value in this idiom, a lot of extreme value in this idiom. And again, the lesson being that the people that we hang out with, the people that we have in our lives, can have a profound impact. And that just a small little influence on the negative can spread quickly and have significant consequences. This is the same lesson that Paul was trying to impress upon the church in Corinth. You remember what happened? There was a guy who was committing some very, very heinous sins, very, very openly, and Paul came to find out about it. And what did he do? He flipped out. He told the church to get away from that person, not even to keep company with him. He then uses the metaphor that we've all heard maybe 75 times here in the last 7 days, and that is, don't you know that just a little bit of leaven can leaven the whole lump of dough? Again, drawing on the same theory that just a small negative influence can have significant impact. The Days of Unleavened Bread teach us to remove sin from our lives and to replace it with goodness, as symbolized by the unleavened bread. This lesson underscores the fact that sin has a tendency to spread quickly. Just like leaven in a lump of dough or bacteria in a barrel of apples, so too does sin have a tendency to spread. And as such, what we need to do is we need to be diligent about containing it and eradicating it. This is true for our attitudes. This is true for our thoughts. This is true for our behavior, our conduct, and yes, even our friends, the people with whom we associate. So what I'd like to do for the remainder of this message is take a closer look at what the Bible says on this very subject. And take a look at what God, the creator of the universe, what guidance he gives us. Teens, youth, what guidance does he give you with regards to selecting your friends? So there's two main principles that I want to cover here. Two main principles very, very quickly. The first is principle number one, remove the negative influence. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 33. Let's have a look at 1 Corinthians 15, verse 33. And Paul says here in verse 33, do not be deceived. That's what he starts with. Don't be fooled. Evil company corrupts good habits. The word there, company, means companionship or association. It really implies a casual relationship. Habits, we know what habits are. They're our morals, our day-to-day patterns, our day-to-day routine. They say that it takes 21 days to establish a good habit. That means whether it's a habit that you have in the gym, a dietary habit, maybe it's a habit that you have trying to wake up in the morning, 21 days. And the point is that it's generally hard to establish a habit. It's difficult, particularly a good one. And what Paul is saying here is that just associating with the wrong people, just sharing company with the wrong people, can have a negative impact on those good habits that you're working really hard to establish. Now imagine a scenario. You've decided you're going to start waking up early and working out, which, by the way, youth, if that's not a habit that you've yet established, I highly recommend it. Waking up early and working out will serve you really, really well in life. Now imagine the scenario. You've gotten up you're day 45 into your new habit. You're working out, you're waking up early, and everything's going great. You're feeling awesome. And then you bump into someone who's like, hey, Johnny, come and hang out with us tonight. And you're reluctant because you want to get into bed by 10 p.m. But anyway, you go out. 10 p.m. becomes 11 p.m. 11 p.m. becomes 2 a.m. Next thing you know, you're getting into bed at 11 a.m. Chances are when your alarm clock goes off at 5 a.m., unless you are an incredibly disciplined person, you're hitting snooze 17 times. Now, that may not be a big deal on day one. But what if Johnny calls you the next day? Hey, there was so much fun last night. Let's do this again. Next thing you know, you can see very, very easily how a good habit gets eradicated and ruined very, very quickly just based on bad company. I've seen this in my own life over and over again. And notice, Paul implores us here, do not be deceived. Don't think that this won't happen to you. Don't think that you can keep bad company and good habits. Not possible. This does happen. The implication in this principle is if we have things or people in our lives that are running contrary to the habits that we want, get rid of them. Kick them out. Principle number one. Principle number two. Surround yourself with the kind of people that you want to be. The best career advice I have ever been given was from an old mentor a couple decades ago. And he said this to me. He said, Stephen, do you want to know the secret to success? And I said, yes, I do. And he said, the secret to success is to surround yourself with successful people. You will become like them. You will become like them. King Solomon gave us similar advice in Proverbs 13, verse 20. Proverbs 13, verse 20, he said, he who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will be destroyed. Now notice, we're encouraged to walk with the wise. That word walk is significant because it conveys the idea of a continuous journey or a way of life. To put this into modern day terms, this is a lot more than just adding someone as a friend on Facebook or casually saying hi to people as we walk by them in the hall or whatever the casual pleasantry is with acquaintances. That's not what this is saying. When we walk with someone, we're not just spending a brief moment with them. Instead, we're joining their journey. We are choosing to spend time with them, to learn from them, and to adopt their wisdom as our own. The point here in this proverb is that it takes effort. It takes effort and intentionality. It's always interested me how at So easy to corrupt a good habit and so difficult to build it back up or to build one fresh. These two principles encourage us not only to remove the negative influence from our life, but to replace it with something positive. And of course, this mirrors the doctrine that we have been learning about for these last 7 days of unleavened bread. Out with the old, out with the bad, in with the good. Now, I think it's really important to say that we should not be seeking perfection in people. What this doesn't mean is that we are somehow to remove all the people in our lives that are anything less than perfect and replace them only with perfect people. That's never going to happen. If that were the case, none of us would have any friends. Life would be a very, very lonely place. And not to mention, none of us are perfect. The whole point is this. This is the main point. Seek out relationships with those people with whom your core values are aligned. People that share your values and are clearly and demonstrably working at them every single day. People who day in and day out have their value and practice their value, no matter how imperfect they are. Those are the kinds of friends and the kinds of relationships that'll last eternity. But if you have friends that don't align with your values, or worse, if you have friends and relationships with people whose values run counter to yours or contradict yours, or they might make a mockery of yours, oh, you don't eat pork, oh, you go to church on Saturday? If you have people that in your life whose values run contradictory to yours, the advice of the creator of the universe is to part ways with them. At the end of the day, you will become the people with whom you associate yourselves. As Paul said, do not be deceived. One rotten apple can spoil the whole barrel. A little leaven leavens the whole lump. No matter how you say it, it's true. Looking back on my life, I can attest to it. Without exception, my friends influenced me. They still do today. You know what the crazy thing is? There are times where I can look at my life today, and I can trace some of my behaviors that I have today back to some of the friendships that I held when I was a teenager, 20 years ago, 25. John was laughing before I even corrected myself. I can guarantee that the same will be true for you. No matter what age you are, your friends will influence you. You can take that to the bank, as they say. That said, for those of you who are in the room who are teens, who are youth, you are probably at the most critical juncture of your entire life. The friends that you choose to associate with now could potentially have the biggest impact on your life than in any other period. You're at an extremely impressionable age, which is great. You're learning and you're adapting and you're molding and you're figuring this thing called life out. You're figuring out who you are and what you are and who you want to be and what you want to be. It's a really, really exciting age. Enjoy it. But it can also be tricky, especially in today's society. And that's why be cautious with the friends that you hang out with. Injecting the wrong kind of influence into your lives can be extremely harmful. You know, I have friends today that are well into their 40s that are still suffering from some of the mistakes that they've made in their early teens. So heed the advice of the eternal God. Eradicate the rotten apples from your life. Get rid of them. And surround yourself with good apples. Apples that are going to challenge you, inspire you, motivate you, and ultimately help bring out the very best you